Good evening, everyone. Happy Heart Day. It is Tuesday, February 14th. I'd like to call to order the Board of Education regular board meeting. Call it to order at this point. Do we have any public comments for closed session? We have no public comments. Seeing none, we will adjourn to closed session and return back at 6 o'clock for regular session. Good evening. Good evening in the board. Welcome. And those also who are participating by Zoom, happy Heart Day that we're doing here. Also just want to raise awareness as Going Red is with regards to women's heart disease. So raise that awareness. Women, let's go out making sure we are having our hearts checked. It's different for women as opposed to men. So also raising that awareness as well. I'd like to call us back to regular session of the board 2023 to February 14th regular board meeting. And now we have language access.
Thank you. Good evening. We have Spanish interpretation available and we also have ASL interpretation available. Muy buenas noches. Tenemos interpretación al español disponible por si alguien gusta escuchar la interpretación al español. Thank you.
Okay. Superintendent Maldonado, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Report at the closed session.
Yes, after the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise, face the flag, and put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have an announcement of closed session action. The board in closed session took action and unanimously approved the appointment of Rob Cooper as the Director of Educational Technology Services. The vote was unanimous 4-0 with Ms. Alvarez not being present. Next, we'll move to the student board member report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope today is a day filled with love for everyone and especially for yourself. So I want to first start with a report out on some things that we've been doing on the student end in regards to the racial climate assessment that's been happening in our schools. So Insight was able to arrange a focus group with students both last Monday and this Monday yesterday to get feedback from students involved in the Student Advisory Council, involved in student leadership about what they believe to be the racial climate in our schools. It was just an hour and we talked about the specific experiences that we've had in our schools, but also what we think the entire district could benefit from as well. So that was a really valuable opportunity for us to give our input as students, as a group of student leaders. And I also want to acknowledge, as we continue celebrating Black History Month this February, I want to highlight the work that the Black Student Union is doing at Santa Barbara High School. They're hosting events and having educational presentations about the importance of Black history, about Black contributions and Black leaders in our country. And in our community. So I just wanted to highlight the work that students are doing to recognize the importance of our Black community. And I also wanted to note that we continue the work of the IU We campaign with our Student Advisory Council, and we are hoping that we get a video pushed out in the coming today. So you heard it here first. So that video is really going to be something that we start off, just a quick, short, 1-minute announcement from students emphasizing the importance of community, of accountability, transparency, integrity, respect, all the core values of our district. So I think that's going to be a really great message to have in our district coming from the students. And I know we have some very special guests here, so I want to keep my comments brief, but thank you all very much, and I'm excited for the meeting tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Rush. Thank you for that very always informative and energized report. Thank you so much. Now we'll move to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, board members, members of the public, and our cabinet. Tonight, I want to recognize and start off, as we have done most of our meetings, with some performance, art performance from our students under the direction of Brett Larson, we have Jenna, David, Elias, and Johnny, our four saxophonists from the Santa Barbara Junior High School Jazz Band performing tonight the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, and I will ask everyone to please rise while they play that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Larson, Jenna, David, Elias, and Johnny. Remember, everybody, you heard them here first when they go on national tour, the Santa Barbara Junior High School Saxophone Quartet. Board members, I also wanted to report out that we've been doing some work with our colleagues at Hope and Goleta Union, as well as our labor partners, SBTA, CSEA, on the topic of affordable housing. I see my colleague Joyce here. She drove back from Santa Maria, where she gave amazing public comment today, along with myself over Zoom and others, on something that we heard, a theme that came up in our listening tour of schools, where our employees really asked us to work on this issue of the high cost of living in Santa Barbara. I'm very proud of joining forces with SBTA, CSEA, Goleta, and Hope School Districts, and we did send a letter to the Board of Supervisors advocating for a variety of affordable housing, not just low income, but other salaries as well. We want housing for all income levels to address our needs, and we care about our staff and want to make sure they have every possible opportunity to live the Santa Barbara dream. I've also been in the process of conducting board member tours with our new trustees, Escobedo and Banning, around our campuses. I think we're up to 12 schools, maybe 11. I think we skipped 11 campuses in the last couple of weeks. It's been a great reminder for me to visit schools and hear some of the work that our cabinet members are leading and others. Really reported back to our new board trustees, and it shows a lot of the coherence that we're building and a lot of the great initiatives that we've taken underway. And I want to thank the principals and the staff and everyone for their great hospitality when we come to their campuses. I want to give a huge shout out to our high schools. Congratulations to Dos Pueblos, San Marcos, and Santa Barbara High School for their renewed accreditation of 6 years. We sent them, we had some cakes delivered to their staffs today because we're so proud of that work. We know that it's difficult for a high school to get 6-year accreditation, and it means a lot to us. that happened at all 3 high schools. The process is lengthy. It requires a lot of time, energy, and effort to complete. And it's something we really want to celebrate. Our 4th high school, La Cuesta, is already in the mid-year of a 6-year cycle approval that they also got. So, just a reminder that we do have La Cuesta, and congratulations from a couple of years ago for getting that 6-year honor as well. Franklin Elementary was also recently named one of 19 schools to win the California Exemplary Arts Education Award. They were honored for high-quality arts education that is culturally responsive for all students, including English learners and special education students, through their folklorico program and other arts programming. They will be honored this Thursday in Anaheim at the California School Recognition Program ceremony. And with that, I'd like to bring up our Director of Facilities and our Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Vance, and Ms. Marina Verdian to come on up. We have some incredible guests in the room today. We have our custodians, and we have just a fraction of them here today with us. We have a total of 83 amazing custodians on staff that we want to honor, but not all of them being here today. Obviously, some of them are working at night, so they couldn't be here. They support all our campus events, including weekends, facilities, use permits, athletic sports, theater, plays, testing, dances, meetings, setups and breakdowns, even here in the district office. And we just want to really recognize all their work and effort in maintaining clean learning spaces for students and staff, because we know that when you come to visit us, whether it's in the district office or our schools, having a clean, welcoming, safe environment means a lot. So I want to just give an extra thanks to our custodians, and I'm going to walk down there with them as well so that we can call out their names.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Dr. Maldonado, the cabinet, and our wonderful guests, custodians for the school district. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all very, very much for your hard work every day. We are so proud of you. You do very hard work every day, and sometimes we don't know your names, right? So what I would like to say to everyone who in any building, when you see a custodial person, please stop, look at them, learn their name, tell them that you see them, and tell them just how grateful you are for everyday work that they do. So this is the reason why we're here today, celebrating their work and their achievements. And we have some certificates to give out. Should I? Yeah, go for it. Okay, so.
Here, we'll do this.
Yeah, okay, so I'll hand to you and you give it. Okay. So I have Jose Obispo Abrego. Yes.
It's like a graduation.
Michael Carvajal.
Michael. I know, it's kind of a...
Marco Antonio Cortez.
Oh, you want to do one? Yeah. Okay. One second, Marco Antonio.
Laura Diaz.
Lauren is not here. She's out of the country.
Okay.
Yeah, so we put her just.
All right, you take it. Rogelio Gallardo.
Oh, Rogelio.
Samantha Gonzalez.
Okay, another one?
An emergency.
Okay.
Brenda Lombreras. Brenda takes care of my office every day. Jose Alejandro Lonate. Raimundo Morin. Sandra Mendoza. Atilano Ramirez. Alfonso Romero.
Can we get you guys all in the group photo from the Okay.
Trying to not use the macro lens if I don't have to. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone.
Last meeting, we recognized our nurses, and so Marina saw that and said, well, I want to recognize our custodians, and so thank you, Marina, for recognizing our facilities folks. With that, I'm going to ask the team to please pull up our Heroes of the Heart, which is another way that we recognize our employees. And this is something that we do, as you know, that we also post on our website, and it just really speaks to some of the work that many of our employees are doing in our district. So as they bring that up, actually Rafa is here, so he gets to be in person. He's our first person to be recognized, and he was nominated by Marina. Yeah, we rarely get them in here. And Marina recognizes him for his outstanding support and contributions to our success. He's been called to do many things in our district, multiple task functions beyond his normal duties. On October 6th, when La Cuesta and the district office experienced an emergency power shutdown by SoCal Edison and we had 15 minutes to evacuate, Rafa immediately stepped up to coordinate an emergency response, stayed on duty all day and through the night until the power was restored, and was back to work early the next morning. We are very lucky to have Rafa on our team. Thank you, Rafa. Next, we have from La Colina Junior High School, nominated by Marina Peebles. Nicole is a tip mentor, cooperating teacher for a student, teacher, and coach to multiple sports and teams here at La Colina. She's always helping others in any way she can. Generous, kind, supportive, and great at helping others grow. Next, we have John Keogh, nominated by Lee Simmons at Santa Barbara High, in his first year of being our ASB leadership teacher, and he's doing amazing in capital letters. Not only is he a quick learner, he's funny and positive. We like that. Thank you so much, John. Irene Morales from Santa Barbara Junior High, nominated by Nicole, Irene is our school nurse, works tirelessly for our school daily. During COVID and upon reopening of schools, she was all hands on deck, working long hours, going above and beyond, testing, seeing many students daily, putting herself on the front line in our school against the disease. She's always willing and capable. She's a gift to our school. I'm going to stop there and keep going to Ryan Adams, Santa Barbara Junior High, also nominated by Elizabeth Osborne. From the first day I arrived for my long-term Math 8 substitute position at Santa Barbara Junior High, Ryan has been beyond helpful, provided guidance for planning, grading, curriculum, and the list continues to grow. Next, we have Veronica Flores from La Colina, works quietly and tirelessly to support our EML students, emergent multilingual students, and newcomers at La Colina. She creates innovative, thoughtful, differentiated, and standards-based content for her English classes and shares everything with her professional learning community. Next, we have Kelly Choi from Dos Pueblos, nominated by Scott Gutentag. While taking part in MTSS and innovating, she's 100% all about students. Kelly's absolutely amazing. Thank you, Scott. And last, we have two people, Santa Barbara Junior High, nominated by Jessica, Lydia Honeyborn, and Maggie Burke. Maggie, by the way, also spoke today at the County of Supervisors meeting. She gave great public comment, and I want to thank her, give her an extra thanks for that. These are two superstars. They run the 7th grade ELA department like a well-oiled machine. They truly adapt and accommodate the needs of all students and have successfully collaborated to reflect on their best practices to fit the needs of universal access and grading for equity. So again, Heroes of the Heart is something that we're doing to really recognize each other. As you can see, these are people nominated by their peers or their supervisors, and we continue to encourage all of you to let us know of any other folks out there that are doing great work. That concludes my report to the board.
Thank you, Superintendent Maldonado. Next, we'll go to board comments and correspondence. We'll start with you, Mr. Banning.
First of all, they're no longer here, but I just wanted to compliment the saxophone quartet. That's always a pleasure as a former music teacher to see that kind of stuff going on. And custodians, any good teacher, administrator, school leader knows that the real power lies in the custodians, and if you don't get to know them and get them on your side, your life's a whole lot different. So I've already met a couple of you on some of the trips, and just my specific thanks to you. I'm glad you're here being recognized tonight. Since our last board meeting, I've completed the CSBA new member workshop. I met individually and listened to the perspectives of 3 different community constituents and 1 district employee on a variety of different topics. With Trustee Escobedo and Dr. Maldonado, I have visited Monroe, Cleveland, Washington, Roosevelt, Harding, Goleta Valley Junior High, Santa Barbara Junior High, La Colina Junior High, La Cumbre Junior High, Dos Pueblos High School, San Marcos High School, and more to come in the next couple of weeks. So we'll be seeing all of the schools, and I just want to tell you what a great experience it is. In addition, I attended programs with the board president, Ms. Sims Moten, at Santa Barbara High School, where Guy Davis, a Grammy-nominated blues artist, sang for and talked with a small group of Santa Barbara High School music students in their music room, and then performed for a larger group of government and special education students in the school auditorium. It was a great experience and for the students, and focusing on the origin and importance of American blues in both the United States and music history. This was an apt presentation during African American History Month and represented a positive collaboration between the district and the Santa Barbara Blues Society. A particular appreciation goes to Santa Barbara High School special education teacher Eric Nickerson, who coordinated the event with the Blues Society, and the administration and teachers at the school that also made it possible. I want to note that my visits to the school sites, both to Santa Barbara High School and all the others with Dr. Maldonado, that the site leaders and staff have been gracious hosts who are rightfully proud of their schools and their work. In each case, the student culture and climate of the schools appeared to be highly positive. With the custodians here, I will tell you that also appeared to be highly clean. I really enjoyed seeing that. In each case, the student culture and climate of the schools was highly positive. I wish every member of the community had the same opportunity to see the dedication, pride, and striving for excellence that occurs every day across the district. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lanning. Ms. Munoz?
Yes, I would also like to add to the appreciation to our custodians for keeping us going, the support and assistance that you provide us. You got us through COVID, and as we know, every day there are different challenges, as Dr. Maldonado said about the outage. Les quiero agradecer, ¿verdad?, de que gracias a ustedes y el apoyo y asistencia que nos dan en las escuelas a diario, muchas veces hemos tenido cosas que surgen, ¿verdad?, que no son esperadas, y gracias a ustedes nosotros podemos funcionar. Primeramente, gracias. I also had the opportunity to go to on this weekend to look at the movie, The Right to Read. Many of us from the community were there, as well as several of my fellow board members. Great conversations about reading, and great topic in terms of the excitement of seeing the children and seeing the teachers think out of the box and learning. And I'm struck by the little girl that said she wanted to grow up and be an engineer. And I believe it's her mom that said, "Oh, you want to be a woman engineer?" And she said, "No, I'm a princess. I'm going to be a princess engineer." and just, you know, the kids are ahead of us, and they're our future. There was great conversations that came up about reading and learning, both right after the movie and at the reception afterwards. I carried on the topic to the Super Bowl Sunday, where there is a whole group of children that, thanks to my nieces and nephews parenting, that are ages 0 to 6. And we talked about reading, we talked about learning, about their surroundings and such, and just, you know, how much we can do and what we can do as a community together in terms of integrating the ideas that were presented along with our teachers and all of those at the school. So it was a very, you know, good experience. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you. So, as was stated by Dr. Maldonado and Trustee Banning, we visited 11 schools since our last board meeting, which has been amazing. It really is encouraging to see what's going on at our schools and get to meet our staff, our principals, our teachers, get to pop into classes. It's some of my favorite moments. But it's also allowed me to reflect just how much I think so many of us missed what is a normal, or as normal as you can get, school year. And I think at our last meeting we got to honor nurses, and I think it's so appropriate that tonight we get to honor our custodians, because to be honest, you really got us through the pandemic, and along with our nurses, and it is so I'm glad that we get to honor you, and there is no thanks great enough. And just thank you so much for making sure that our schools are safe and clean, and that they are places and safe spaces for our children and our students to take pride in where they're growing and learning every day. So thank you so much. I also attended the Right to Read film, and it was a good experience filled with really good conversation. And there were a lot of people from all over Southern California, Central Coast. It was really interesting to get to hear people's stories and what they're interested in. And yeah, I had a great time. It was great to see some of my fellow trustee members. And to finish, I just wanted to thank Dr. Maldonado, the Hope School District, and Goleta Union School District, CSEA, and SBTA for your leadership on this topic. I think it cannot be, I think it's so impactful to have you all involved in the housing conversation. It's a conversation I've been involved in for a number of years, and I think having you at the table is right where you should be. And so I just wanted to say thank you, because it was a very big step, and I think coming out of this process, this housing element process, we are going to see some positive change, and I just wanted to thank you all for putting yourself out there. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Escobedo. And I'll just round us out. Again, I just want to echo the comments of my sister, Mr. board members. Just to say thank you for the students who rendered Lift Every Voice. And that really is not just an African, it is about the African American experience, but it is a place about Lift Every Voice. So it can translate across, genres, not necessarily just in about Black History Month, but it translates in terms of lifting every voice so that we're able to hear that. So I appreciate them rendering that today. Also certainly want to congratulate and appreciate and thank the custodians who are here today and for the work that they do. Have a real quick story. Many of you may or may not know Miss Shirley Wright, who used to teach at Franklin and Washington, and during her memorial service, one of the teachers was talking about why was her room always so clean, because she knew where the power lied in terms of that, so she'd have a little extra treat for them, and so she said, oh, that's the secret for having your room always clean and always having someone respond. So that's what the secret is. So I just wanted to, that just reminded me of that, and her recognizing and appreciating the work, the hard work that you do every day, and to keep the rooms clean and students in a safe and healthy environment. Also had the opportunity to attend again with Trustee Banning with regards to Guy Davis. We had a good time. We also found out that we had playing the French horn in common. Didn't know that. There's not many French horn players, but we're two of them, right? So that was an interesting thing to be able to just talk about and bond out as well. And one of the things that Mr. Davis was talking about, other than this wonderful playing that he was going in the back history of these songs, he was just saying, he was telling the students, never do anything halfway. If you're going to do it, always do it all the way. If you're doing this as a profession, do it all the way, whether you have 2 people in the room or whether you have 2,000 in the room. So whatever you're going to do, never do it halfway. So I really appreciated that, and they were, relating to that. And so after after his performance, I did see the students go up and really want to understand what he did. And he was playing the harmonica, which he kept saying that the brace that was holding the harmonica, that was his sister's retainer. So he just had a lot of humor in that whole thing. And also, I also had the opportunity to attend, again, as we're elevating language and literacy, how important it is to the success of our students, to the changing the trajectory of our community. I had the opportunity to attend at La Cumbre Junior High, Reading for Our Lives, which really talked and spoke about we can do that from birth to 5. We can have a plan to how to do that. The speaker, Maya Payne Smart, talked about we as parents, it starts there, and start to journal and see how we can do and what we're doing each day to just encourage the development of that brain. And sometimes that's just words, that's just using the opportunities that you can. I think what she said there really paralleled with, also I had the opportunity to attend the Right to Read. It really paralleled how important it is in those early years, how important the parent's role is a part of that, as well as the community, how important that was. So I really appreciated seeing that that documentary, and had the opportunity to just really hear the questions that were coming up as well, and how do we support parents and supporting their children, how important that really truly is. And so I lit up, of course, when you talk about early care and education, so I automatically say, yeah, that's what we have to do. But how do we make sure that it's something that parents from the very beginning understand that they have the right to do it, and they don't have to do it alone. So I think, and I also just wanted to appreciate also with regards to the housing, thank you, Mr. Escobedo, with regards to that. Thank you for stepping up and doing that. And we know that we cannot settle this alone. It's going to take a community effort. It's going to cross agency, making sure that we're doing that. But the conversation is there, and we're at the table starting that conversation and being part of that conversation. So I really appreciate that, and I know that that's going to go forth, and we're just going to be that much better and that much stronger in solving that problem across this community. So thank you. So now,
Ms. Sims Moten,
Yes, of
may I
course.
interrupt? Just
Sure.
apparently one of my bullets fell off the screen, and I didn't acknowledge that I also attended the Right to Read. And I just wanted to say I really appreciated the opportunity to get that information and see the passion around this really critical subject. Thanks.
Thank you, certainly. Next, we'll move to the consent agenda. Are you bring it? Okay. Oh, public comment. I'm sorry. You were on your way up. Mr. Esky. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
All right, so we have public comment for items that are not on today's agenda. And just as a friendly reminder to folks, at 30 seconds, I'll just give you a friendly reminder that your time is almost up. And we will start with virtual public comment from Bianca Duran, followed by virtual public comment from Garrett Williams.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I didn't know I was going to speak this early. I thought I was going to speak later after, I think it was comment for G2 or after the graphs.
Did you want to give general public comment or for, you said G2?
Yeah.
Okay, we can hold your public comment until then.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings us to the virtual public comment for Garrett Williams, followed by virtual public comment from Matt Richardson. And we don't have Garrett online, so we will move on to Matt Richardson, followed by in-person public comment from Maggie Light.
Hi, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. I'm a parent of a child in junior high in this district. The Santa Barbara School District is woefully unprepared for the events of anti-Black racism and anti-Semitism that we know about. And there's a lot more that we don't know about publicly. The district will want to say that they are responding with the student-led IU We Stand initiative. Don't let our kids do this by themselves. Provide experienced in-person training for students, staff, and teachers. The district needs to put significant resources towards dealing with issues of violence, hate, and discrimination. The board recently dissolved relationships with organizations that provided on-site training and discussion among students, staff, and teachers around issues of bias and racial animosity. As a result, you now have to reinvent the wheel to build partnerships with the Santa Barbara community that have been severed. After almost a year, the Combating Anti-Blackness Working Group has touched on the following items, but has not produced solid suggestions on several topics. As parents of Black students, we are frustrated with the slowness of this process and want to see substantive programs to address diversity in the district, including but not restricted to district-wide disciplinary procedures and support for traumatized kids, a clear vision statement that includes discussing diversity that has been taken up by the working group, then abandoned last spring, protocols for teachers and staff to intervene immediately when they witness inappropriate language or behavior, including racial and other slurs, prioritize diversity in the curriculum at all levels, provide a wide array of cultural arts events that celebrate different cultures and languages and the complexities of diverse lived experience. We ask that at the very least that you know what is planned for Black History Month at each school. Do you have schools in the district that do not have school-wide Black History Month programming? Again, we ask that you don't leave the students to figure things out on their own. Please put resources for meaningful change through well-trained, professional adult guidance behind their efforts. Thank you.
30 seconds. Thank you. So we have in-person public comment from Maggie Light, followed by in-person public comment from Moni DeWitt.
Can I bend this down a little bit? Okay, there we go.
Welcome.
Hello. When my family celebrates Passover, we remember the suffering endured by Jewish people everywhere, and we include in our celebration of freedom those who have and continue to suffer, and in the hope for redemption, even those who cause it. Our rituals are inclusive and grounded in love of something greater than ourselves. Because as Jamie Orsick, co-president of Santa Barbara Hillel, said at a recent march, it's what we choose to do with that pain that shows who we are as a community. Yet the following words were used in recent memos sent out to Santa Barbara Unified Families regarding swastikas found at area schools. Anti-Semitism, troubled, investigation, perpetrator, condemns, hateful, despicable, opposes, offensive, combating, corrective action, bias, hate, report, racist, discrimination, vandalism, and violence. The district stands against hate, but what does it stand for? In discussing anti-bias or anti-racism, words associated with hate outnumber words that reflect ideals of love, kindness, empathy, connection, and unity. If we offer no alternative, we are in danger of inviting the very thing we're trying to eradicate. MLK Jr. argued that in working towards social justice, the challenge would be to live up to our ideals of love, empathy, and connection, while the temptation would be to sacrifice our ideals on the altar of personal injury, to inflict harm for causing harm. He warned that we will be tempted, quote, to become bitter and to retaliate with a corresponding hate. If this happens, the new order we seek will be little more than a duplicate of the old order, because we never get rid of an enemy by meeting hate with hate. We get rid of an enemy by getting rid of enmity. But to speak of love and empathy risks reducing it to a cliche or empty platitude. Love is the answer, but it's not an easy answer. The love that redeems suffering and defeats hate is agape, MLK argued. This love is not a romantic love or a familial love or even the love between friends. It is, quote, the love of God operating in the human heart. At this level, we love men not because we like them or because their ways appeal to us, nor even because they possess some kind of divine spark. We love every man because God loves
30
him.
seconds.
At this level, we love the person who does an evil deed, although we hate the deed that he does. MLK Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi offer us the challenging option to practice soul force, or love in action. But this requires the courage to stand for and practice love. As St. Paul so eloquently said, love is patient, love is kind. It is not jealous, it is not pompous, it is not inflated, it is not rude, it does not seek its own interest, it is not quick-tempered, it does not brood over injury, it does not rejoice over wrongdoing,
Thank
but
you.
rejoices with the truth. Love never fails.
Thank you. So we have in-person public comment from Moni DeWitt, followed by Leandra Shalhoub.
Yeah, hi, board members. I first of all want to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy weekend to go to the Right to Read film. I'm very excited about it, as well as the movement, and I think one of the big takeaways they have is that one style is guessing at a word, and the science of reading is about decoding. And as a dyslexic, and I know other English language learners or emerging multilingual language learners also struggle in the same way that the dyslexics struggle, and that is we do need this presented in an explicit way. And so I do want to remind you, as the movie said, and as I often do speak out, that balanced literacy is actually something that hurts students because it's getting them to guess at words, and it doesn't activate the parts of the brain that are necessary for the sound-letter correspondence. So it's real important that we don't use those methods at our school sites, which I believe we still currently are. But the second thing I wanted to cover, I know, I'm really glad we're talking about housing and other things that you hear the staff talk about, but last week I heard a lot of staff talk about the situation in special ed. And I know, sometimes it's hard to talk about areas that are our weakness, but as somebody who is a different learner, I think the people are different learners in our community have some of the lowest scores. And so the things that the staff brought up last week, I was sad to see that the district didn't respond or write about it. Like we have written about housing, or our PR firm writes about district issues, but it seemed like we're just dodging the ball about talking about these unmet needs for these students who frankly have been ignored way before any of you were even sitting here, for decades. And this happens across the country, but I would really like us to have a conversation about this. And I thought it was courageous of the people who came up, like the paraeducator who gets paid as much as McDonald's. And he, other people, I don't want to name any names, but they were concerned that that things weren't being addressed and that we're out of compliance. Nobody wants that. And our legal fees for special ed have doubled. So it really would behoove us, I think, to do a completely different approach and
30
do something
seconds.
proactive. But beyond that, if we could just have a real conversation so there was reciprocity, I think that would show that you cared about this rather than maybe are ashamed or afraid or something. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have our last in-person public comment, Leandra Shalhoub. Welcome.
Hi. Sorry. Tomorrow marks 365 days since my son was attacked at Santa Barbara Junior High. He was called a nigger, a monkey. He was held down by 3 other students with their knees to his neck. This month marks just shy of a year since I begged this board to make a change on our school campuses. Santa Barbara Unified is still not protecting our Black students. I'm not sure where the disconnect is. Glad that the student boards are doing focus groups, but it seems like nobody's getting their hands dirty. Nobody's talking to the parents. Nobody's supporting the parents. I'm here to remind you today that your schools, your principals, your staff members are still not prepared to give support to our Black students and us parents for the violence and the hate that they're still dealing with on a regular basis because of their skin color. Again, I don't know where the disconnect is, but I will keep coming back as much as I need to until you guys remember that it's time to do this different. It's time to dig in and make a difference, please.
Thank you. That concludes general public comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those who spoke during public comment. Now we'll move us to item E, the consent agenda. Board members, are there any items you would like to pull from the consent agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. We will now move to the action agenda. 1, approval of the side letter agreement dated January 31st, 2023 for payment of 500 stipends for approved staff participating in language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, training, educational services. That's you, Mr. Monroe. Thank you.
Good evening, Board President Wendy Sims Moten, board members, and Superintendent Maldonado. Education Services is bringing to you for your approval the cost of the stipends for elementary teachers, literacy coaches, instructional support specialists, and teachers on special assignment participating in the language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, also known as LETRS, professional development. The professional development contract to purchase Lexia LETRS was approved by the board on Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. We have reached a side letter agreement with SBTA for a $500 stipend per completed unit for a total of 8 units, which equates to $4,000 of total compensation for each attendee. This is not to exceed $148,000 for the current cohort of 37 participants, and this is for the 2022-2023 and 2023 and 24 school year only. And the purpose for the stipend, the reason for it is the amount of weekly reading, the online coursework. There's 8 in-person professional learning days, many of which will take place on weekends. And it also requires a substantial amount of time outside of the classroom, and it does acknowledge the additional workload outside of work hours. Thank you.
Do we have any requests to speak on this item? No, we do not. Board members, any questions or comments?
Just one question, the not to exceed amount that you mentioned, is that for both years? Or
Yes, that is for
That's
both
the
years.
total?
That's the total for the current 37 participants.
Thank you.
Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. Can you, for those in the public watching, can you give a little summary of what LETRS is?
Yes, thank you. So really what it is, the purpose of LETRS is to develop a language and literacy expertise among our teachers. We want to improve the student achievement, so we want to make sure that our teachers are equipped with those skills. We also want to develop their understanding of the fundamentals of reading instruction. And it just, again, develops, it provides the staff with the skills to master the fundamentals of reading instruction, which includes phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary comprehension, writing, as well as language.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. Just a couple of questions. I think I heard you say that. But first, a comment. That was one of the things that we heard in the Right to Read movie about ensuring that the teachers have the right and correct training to teach language and literacy. So I appreciate that we're moving toward that effort. And you may have said it in your thing, but are the learning days, are they on weekends, or they're during the work hour, during the day, or?
Yeah, so there's 8 in-person sessions. So those occur over the course of 2 years, so 4 per year. 8 units, 4 per year, so there's 8 total in person.
Okay. And so is this?
And that will take place on weekends,
Yeah, does this
primarily on
include
a Saturday.
Okay, that's okay. Thank
Sorry
you for that clarification. And so you also mentioned that it was cohort. So is this is ongoing cohorts, or will we be building on, or would they be like a trainer type of thing and turn around and change there?
Well, we're gonna, after the first cohort, we want to stop, pause, and really reflect and see, okay, what is working, what is best for our staff and for our students? What is this effective at this time? But for right now, this is the current cohort that we have 37 people.
Okay, great. And then my last comment would be just always want to making sure that we're connecting. What LCAP goal does this training align with?
I would have to get back to you on
Okay.
the exact LCAP goal, what that is, but I'll be sure to get that for
This-
you.
Mr. Vance, Mr. Vance has the answer.
Sure.
While Mr. Vance comes up, Board President, I also want to add that this is not the only thing we're doing.
Yes.
This is one of other efforts.
Thank you. So the goal it addresses specifically is goal number 1, which actually focuses on academic achievement, both in mathematics as well as in language and reading. I think that one of the strengths, particularly with this program, is it really helps teachers to learn phonemic awareness and phonics, and really strengthening that type of instruction with our students.
And this may be, I just want to get clarity in trying to understand one of the comments that came up through public comment with regards to balanced literacy. So, and this may not be the time to think about it, but as we come, I just want to kind of better understand what tools we're using to ensure that we're increasing the language and literacy. Just want to put that in your mind, not necessarily, I'm looking for an answer tonight, but just to make sure that where we're going with that, if we're moving from something that's not working, but what are we moving to, and how we're doing, and how it's aligning with our LCAPs and the other goals.
Can I add one more thing as well, is that in goal number 1, this also helps to reinforce our instruction with our emerging multilingual learners. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments or question, board members? Okay, if not, may I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion and seconded. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Now we're moving to F2, appointment of labor negotiator for Board of Education. That's Dr. Becchio.
Good evening, Board President Sims Moten, board members, Superintendent Maldonado. Bringing forward to you tonight the action item to appoint a labor negotiator. Now, you may think, well, we did this last time, and you did. You appointed me as your chief labor negotiator for SBTA and our negotiations with CSEA. We also, if you'll recall, have a group of employees that are non-represented employees, and this includes our confidential employees, our classified management employees, our certificated management employees. And so we do also engage in interaction with them around salary and compensation, benefits, et cetera. So bringing forward to you tonight the request to appoint Superintendent Maldonado as your negotiator for our non-represented employees. And of course, I should not be doing that since I'm included in that group of non-represented employees. So with that, I'll leave it to you for any questions that you might have.
Any requests to speak on this item? Public request, okay. Board members, any questions, concerns? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vecchio. May I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Dr. Vecchio. The motion
Okay,
passes.
congratulations, Dr. Maldonado.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, next we'll move to item F3, approval of human resources recommendations. Dr. Vecchio.
Thank you very much for the time to present to you what is actually, these are all the human resources actions that we have taken over the last short amount of time, mostly in the last 2 weeks. And I do want to just express my appreciation to the staff in Human Resources who have really been doing great work to try to fill a lot of positions. And so we'll keep doing that, and we are coming up upon the hiring season, so you'll see these lists start to fill up with our certificated teaching staff, summer staff, and then going into next school year staff for the schools. A couple highlights here to mention. First of all, I want to congratulate publicly Brett Coulter, who has worked for us in maintenance and operations, and Brett was a foreman in the trades, and he actually is being promoted into a project manager position, which is a management position. So congratulations to him. You'll see him on the first line there of the board recommendation list. If I could turn your attention to retirements as well, we have several certificated retirements that are on the list tonight for your approval. Kimberly Anderson from La Colina, 33 plus years. Todd Borden, Dos Pueblos High School, 32 plus years. Lisa Howard, who is from San Marcos High School, 19 plus years. And then Michelle Meinzer, who retired, came back, and now is re-retiring. So she's on the list tonight. And then Tracy Schifferns, Adams Elementary, 16 plus years. Congratulations to those folks. And then I also wanted to move down the list just a little ways to promotions for classified. And you'll see we have 2 on the list, Yvonne Saracedo and Jessica Navarro. And so they are moving into higher level positions within the district. And finally, I do want to mention our premium pay section, classified premium pay. We have, I believe it was 9 language premium pays that are being added to the list. I also wanted to call out Cesar Cadillo Lazarna, who has received the bachelor's degree. And then if you just look down the list just a little ways, I think we have also another bachelor's degree, Muniz Sutler, and then a master's degree, Paula Tome Pale. And you'll see that down at the very bottom there on the screen. So, and then, last but not least, additional 22 subs have been brought on and cleared. That space is looking a lot better for us than it did at the beginning of the school year, but you'll just see these lists keep coming. I was told today that we have about 9 more that are about to clear that are not on this list as well. So we'll have more next board meeting as well. With that, I want to ask for your consideration of approval of this list.
Any requests to speak on this item? No. Any questions from the board members? Comments? I just want to add that while I was just kind of quickly doing the math, that's 100 plus years that's going out that has been a part of this district. Just want to just recognize that. And my question would be the substitutes. So the fact that we've been dry in that area, that we're trying to get them in. So what does that do? What's the advantage? What's the benefit of having them here? So if you can just say that for the public, the importance of substitutes.
Well, they are really, really important. On any given day, they visit a campus or several campuses. Sometimes they do a half day here and a half day there. Really important visitors because they fill the role of the teacher that can't be there. And so when we saw that we had a shortage in this space, we had people covering classrooms, administrators would cover classrooms. We had other teachers that would, on their prep period, cover classrooms. In the elementary, we have teachers that combine. They take the kids and they have just a large class that day. And so this is really disruptive to the regular flow of the program. So when we can have the subs, that there's enough subs to take the daily jobs that are in the system, it is just part of the system that flows a lot smoother at the school site. So it's really impactful. We heard it earlier in the year. We'll probably hear it less as we go forward because we're seeing that, we have many more subs to be able to fill those roles.
Well, I appreciate that because as we were doing some of the listening tours, that was things coming up. Teachers felt they couldn't call in sick or they couldn't take care of personal days and different things. So really appreciate where that is improving in that area. So with that, I'd like to hear a motion to approve this item.
I'll move to approve the item.
I'll second.
Thank you. Moving second. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you, Dr. Beck.
Thank
You'll
you.
approve this item. Typically, board members, this is time we take a break between our action and our discussion agenda, but I want to leave it to you to take a maybe 5-10 minute break, or we can keep going, whichever your desire. Speaker forever, hold your feast. We moving on. Okay. All right. So we're going on to G. Item G, we're going to have the report on the governor's 23-24 budget. Okay. But you can, yeah. You're not glued to the seat, so if you need to be excused, you're all right to do that. So, all right. Thank you.
I like that you're ready to roll on into the governor's budget. So good evening, board members. So tonight we're just going to take a look at the governor's budget for next year. I want to remind you that this is really a proposal for the budget for next year, and we'll take a look at how it affects us, if it does at all, for Santa Barbara Unified. And the information that I have here is coming from the Capital Advisors and from CSBA. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is, the reason why I say this is only a proposal for next year, lots of changes can happen. So at this time of the year, in the middle of our current year, the government is trying to say, how much money do we have going forward into next year? So things can happen. So if you remember what happened during COVID, we got to this time and all kinds of different things happened. So things can change, but we're going into this looking at where we are right now for next year. So, and we will have an update called the May Revise that happens in May. What the slight wrinkle to that is that usually by May Revise, the state has a good kind of understanding of how much money is actually going to be coming in. But if you remember, we had this incredible winter rainstorms that affected our county very strongly. And so, and it was, the governor said that we could, if we wanted to, we could postpone actually filing our taxes. So the normal, usual in a year time when you would file your taxes is April 15th, or this year actually would be April 18th. But because of that push out of the deadline to May 15th, that makes a little more, little gray as to understanding how much money we're actually going to have coming into the state. So that's just a tiny little wrinkle there that might have some effect. So then what happens is the legislators also put together their budgets. So we have lots of different budgets going around, and then we get to the end of June, there's a lot of discussions happening, a lot of push and pull, a lot of little political navigating on the budget. And then by the time we get to the end of the year, the final budget will be released on June 30th, we know that this will happen because the legislators don't get paid if they don't release it on time. So we know that we will get a budget by June 30th. But typically what has happened because of this sort of, line in the sand as to when it has to come out, we tend to get kind of a shell of a budget at that point. And then the trailer bills start coming out in August. So we have kind of a general understanding, but we don't know usually the fine details of the budget. So, but even though all that being said, we look at the budget right now because it gives us an understanding of what the governor is thinking in terms of the money that's going forward. So next slide, please. So what is the state of our state? So the unprecedented increases in the state's general fund revenue is over. So if you remember the last couple years, we've had surpluses every year in our budget. And there were a lot of reasons for that, but COVID was a very, very strong reason why we had surpluses, because there were higher personal incomes that were coming in. Our budget is the revenue is personal income, property taxes, capital gains, corporate taxes. And so a lot of those actually increased due to COVID because we had higher increases in the tech sector. We had increases in personal income tax in the highest level of our income earners in the state. If you remember, we had a lot of things. The stock market went up dramatically during this period, so all of those things provided more revenue to our state. And a lot of that is kind of evening out now. We're kind of getting back to normal times. So because of that, our state revenue is projected to be $20 billion lower than what we have seen in the last budget. Next slide, please. And this is what it looks like. So we have different colors here. So the governor's budget is the red one in the middle. The purple one is what was budgeted in the 2022 Budget Act. So when we do our budgets, we always look at the current year and then we look forward in the next couple of years. So what was projected in last year's budget was at 22-23 we would be at roughly 215. 214.89, and what our governor is saying is that it's 206.5 billion. These are billions. And then the green is the Legislative Analyst's Office. So they also take a look at these numbers, and they're saying, we think that maybe the governor's budget is a little bit high. So they're coming in below that in the green. So it just kind of gives you a pictorial of what everybody's kind of looking at going forward. Next slide, please. So the state of the state continued. So what we've got here then is a mixed bag. The state revenue has gone down, but we've been projecting for a while now that we're thinking recession. But the Department of Finance projects slower revenue growth, but no recession at this time, which is good news. Our labor market is super strong, and our unemployment is at record lows. So that's good news. And the other good news is the California has recovered all of the non-farm jobs lost due to the pandemic as of October of 2022. So everything that we had lost during the pandemic has come back up, and we're seeing really good, strong unemployment. So, but our inflation, as we all know, has reached a 40-year high, but it is coming down. So the high mark was in March of 8.5%. So just a quick understanding of why we're having inflation. So during COVID, you remember that we couldn't really travel and we couldn't really go out to dinner and those fun things that we got used to doing. We couldn't really partake in services as much as we all like to do. So then what happened was a lot of us switched into buying goods. So we switched from services to buying things. We all remember the rush on toilet paper, right? So the massive online orders combined with the worker shortage really physically broke the supply chain. We all remember that. We kept hearing supply chain is, issues. So it was very difficult to get all those things that we tried to get. So the the combination of low supply and high demand is what always causes costs to go up. So that's inflation. So the Fed, the Federal Reserve, they're trying to slow our economy, right? They're trying to do this by increasing the interest rates. And we keep hearing that. The interest rates are slowly ticking up, ticking up, ticking up. But what the Federal Reserve, that's to cool the economy, to slow things down. But what happens when you have high or a strong labor market, everybody is working, we all want to buy goods. We all want to buy the services. We all want to go out to dinner again. So that's actually kind of not working really well for the federal government to slow things down. So because of all of this, there's a lot of volatility right now, and that's caused the stock market to be very volatile, and that's still causing a little bit of a recession risk. So all that going on is our mixed bag for our state. Next slide, please. What we need to remember is in the state budget, we always have to have a balanced budget. The federal government, they have their own thing going on, but the states have to balance their budgets. And so when you have revenues that are going down, and last year and the year before that, we matched our revenues with our expenditures, and we put some in reserve. But what happens is when your revenues start to go down, and your expenditures are now higher than your revenues, that's a deficit. So what the state has to figure out is how do we bring everything back in line? How do we balance out? So usually you balance by cuts, dipping into the reserves, or both. But Governor Newsom has promised to address any shortfalls without using our reserves. So then the only other thing that can happen is expenditures need to be reduced, and the word for that is cuts. So how will this affect us at Santa Barbara Unified? Next slide. Well, the governor proposes to keep the current one-time funds that we've been getting as status quo. But he also says he's not going to add any additional funds. He wants to stay the course on the rollout of the implementation of UTK, ELOP, and the universal meals. He wants to keep those status quo. But he wants to cut the arts, music, and instructional materials block grant. For us, that block grant was $7.6 million, and we have already received half of that funding. He wants to provide an 8.13% COLA to LCFF and other programs. Next slide, please. For the ongoing programs, we only receive a COLA for a few of our programs because, again, we're not LCFF funded. We're community funded or property tax funded. So the 8.13% COLA, if that's what it ends up being, there's a chance that it could come in less than that, but if that's what it ends up being, we will have that applied to a few of our programs like special ed and child nutrition. But we don't receive the TK program funding. That doesn't come to us, and we are still providing transitional kindergarten without that additional funding. So without additional funding, we would need to reduce other expenditures. Next slide, please. Now this is the tough one for us, the one-time funds, because this will be the first time that we haven't received additional one-time funds in years and years and years, because Governor Brown and also Governor Newsom like to put extra funding into one-time funds for us, for all districts. So there won't be any change to ELOP, universal meals, the Learning Recovery Block Grant, the college and career pathways, and the educator workforce. But we won't get any new one-time funds. And as I said, there might be a cut to the arts, music, and instructional block grant. We'll just have to see. We are expected to receive the second half of that funding in May. So while there is while we've been told to kind of expect that maybe this will be cut, the capital advisors and CSBA also suggested that it would be very difficult to cut something like that is supposed to come in the next couple of months. So it would take a 2/3 vote from the state Congress in order to make that happen. So we may end up getting that funding after all, but there might be some restrictions put on it if we do receive it. Okay, next slide. And then, of course, there's the school employer pension costs, the CalSTRS and CalPERS, and they just keep going up and up. And in the past, our state has allocated some funding towards reducing those costs, and that is not being projected here. We're just going to have to deal with those increases in costs as we go along. And that's it for now.
Any requests to speak on this item? No requests. Board members, any questions or comments? Mr. Bannon? Look like you have a question. I'm just helping you along.
He's thinking.
I guess my only question was on that last slide about the STRS and PERS. Did I read correctly that there is no increase between this year and next for STRS, but a small increase for PERS?
STRS stays the same for next year, you are correct, and PERS has an increase.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Any other questions or comments, board members? I do have a comment. Just as you're talking about the state budget, is the federal budget, if when they increase their expending, is there opportunity for us to apply for federal funding that may not necessarily be a pass-through to the state? So can we apply directly to those funding things that might be available to fill the gaps that we have?
If there is anything available, yes, we always try to apply for grants and other things that come up and that are available, but there's nothing I'm off the top of my head thinking of right now.
Yeah, I was just thinking, later we're talking about committees and, board representations on that, and if we need to include one. I'm almost tempted, I think you talked about this, Superintendent, about adding a legislative committee so that we can look at different things. So sitting as a delegate for our region, one of the delegates for our region, we get a list of bills that are coming, we get a list of federal funding that's, being introduced, and so perhaps we can, at that committee level, get and talk with you about things and opportunities that may not readily, because if we're just, primarily focusing on the state dollars, but thinking ahead, how can we then take advantage of the federal dollars or spending that's going there? So that might be something we think about, not to add anything to your plate, but I think that might be another opportunity, particularly when we're looking at the cuts with regards to that. So appreciate your report tonight, and looking forward to the more updates about that. So thank you.
One other brief question. I recall that there was an arts music proposition that passed. So is that of a similar amount of what what the governor's cutting?
I think that's one of the reasons why that one is on the chopping block, is because yes, our taxpayers voted for the Proposition 28. And so because they're kind of similar, I think maybe that was the idea. We still don't have a lot of information on Prop 28 yet and how much that is for us, and what we do know a little bit about it, but not really enough yet to make a good understanding of that.
Yeah. Well, to use a little vernacular, perhaps the public is supplanting rather than supplementing.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next we'll move to item G2, discussion and report of updated racial incidents. Ms. Edison?
There we go. Good evening, Board. Happy Valentine's Day, happy Black History Month, and glad to be here. So, as at the direction of the board, we've been updating you each board meeting on racial incidents that have happened on campus, things that we've identified specifically related to race. I do want to let you know that we have had incidents with swastikas on campuses. Those numbers are not included in this report, although those have been addressed community-wide. So, next slide, please. This is a report from January 19th through February 9th. There were seven racial incidents across 4 schools. Next slide. If maybe you can remove me, thank you. Although we did last board meeting have nothing to report, we can see that there is an influx. We've had 7 incidents, so in this last tick we did have some to report. We'll talk about what those look like. Next slide, thanks. You can see the breakdown. We are tracking across our grade levels. We had 2 incidents at the elementary level, 3 at the junior high school, and 2 at the high school level. Next slide. We talked about looking at the incidents as if they were directed towards another student or if it was indirect, meaning someone's walking down the hall and it wasn't said to them, but they walked past. Of our 7 incidents, 5 of them were directed towards another student intentionally, and 2 of those incidents were indirect. To capture what type of action it was, we're monitoring that as well. As you can see, we had 3 verbal. 3 verbal casual, that's amongst friends using, that was involving the N-word in a casual setting. Not appropriate, not condoning, but that's how we're categorizing them, where the 2 different verbal types. Written and photo. You can see those numbers don't add up because we had an incident that involved written and photo. So that's captured twice on there. Next slide. I will let you know that we will be reporting to you in this report the number of staff who have completed the modules. I just wanted to remind us what those modules were. We're working with the vendor at this time on how we'll collect that data, how we'll receive it, but I will be reporting out on this. I do want to let you know that this is a big community issue to tackle, so we're really trying to engage every stakeholder and partnering with our student advisory council who said we want to do something and need to do something. They did a video that is kind of the launch and kickoff of the campaign. It is not the standalone work, but it's how we partner with our student leaders to do some of this work. So I want to share that video with you all tonight. They did an amazing job, and it's a great way for us to activate our student population within the district. So if we can show that video now.
We all have a responsibility to care for and stand for one another. We must model and promote the respectful treatment and dignity of all people.
We need to stand up for us, because I believe together we are stronger.
Every day we have an opportunity to celebrate the rich diversity of our campuses. No act is too small to create an environment that is safe and supportive.
We stand for kindness, compassion, and unity.
I stand for inclusivity.
I stand for a brighter future.
I believe in love without boundaries.
I stand for unity.
I stand for the queer community.
I stand for an equitable education.
I stand for a safer community.
I stand with my friends.
Yo soporto la comunidad de Latinoamérica.
We stand for kindness, empathy, and compassion. We stand for a culture that celebrates our diversity and honors our legacies. And we can all make this vision a reality, but only if we take a stand. Because at Santa Barbara Unified, we stand for community.
We stand for each other.
So now it's your turn. What will you take a stand for?
And I will ask her to speak on this. The student leaders were very adamant that they wanted to take a stand for what was positive and not take a stand against what was negative. As you know, we have multiple initiatives going on to address anti-Blackness within our community. Our Combating Anti-Blackness Work Group has put forth a slew of recommendations that are on point that we still have to work with. We have our insight survey going on across the community that also will give us insight, no pun intended, around what our next steps are. As you know, as an MTSS district, we are using data to guide our decisions, and that is a huge data pool that we're waiting to come in so that the Combating Anti-Blackness also can review that data and sync up with their recommendations. It's a conversation that we're having constantly at our leadership level, because it is about how do we engage our entire community for accountability around each other and our words and the harm that's created when these words are used on our campus, but not just words, pictures posted and comments made. So that is, I will yield to Kavya to make a brief, I heard you in your opening statement wanting to talk about the video, so I'll give you an opportunity to speak.
Kavya, before you say that, I just want to recognize that the video was produced by DP News, and I want to thank John Dent, our teacher, and the students that helped us produce that. Sorry, thank you.
Of course. So obviously this isn't, like Ms. Edison mentioned, the end all be all, right? We're not just going to put out a video and say we did the work. But I can speak to the student piece of it, and I think as students it's important for us as well to take accountability for one another. And so by taking a stance for something, not only are we sharing with the community that we support one another, but also for each individual student that watches the video, that participated in the making of that video, they now have this responsibility, right, to make sure that their actions, that the culture they create reflects what they took a stand for, because they're holding themselves to this standard. So I think it's really important that obviously the adults in our community have a lot of work to do in themselves in creating an education system that prioritizes equity and restoration, but also as students, what are we doing on our end to make sure that we reflect, like our behavior reflects our culture, our vision, because I think that's something that can slip a lot of the time, right? You have this idea of what you want your school community, your district community to look like, but your actions, your words, your behaviors don't model that. So now, you know, with this video, not only are we pushing out this affirmative language that encourages people to take a stand for unity, for community, for inclusion and acceptance, instead of taking a stand against something, but we're also calling in the students to make their own stance, understand their own roles, understand the responsibility and obligation they have to promote an equitable environment. And also hopefully this inspires the adults in our community to see the youth taking a stand, and to recognize that, you know, I have a role as well in influencing these youth and being a positive model, a positive reflection for them as well. So yes, like Ms. Edison mentioned, we really wanted to focus on positive affirming language because it does better to think about where we want to go than to think about where we don't want to go. So hopefully this is just one of the many steps that we can take towards really making that vision a reality.
Any questions?
Are there any public comment requests to speak on this item?
Yes. So we have virtual public comment and one in-person public comment. And just as a friendly reminder for those giving public comment, I'll give you a 30-second warning before your time runs out. And virtual public comment will start with Bianca Duran, followed by Audrey Gamble.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi. So I have oh gosh. Okay. So my comment is in regards to the oh my gosh, I'm sorry, a little nervous today. Let's see. So oh my gosh, I lost my place. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Here we go. Hello, I speak before you today for all children let down by Santa Barbara School District, not only by the system and the policies regarding blatant racism, but by the staff and teachers. My daughter has been harassed and bullied since school started, and I have followed the policies. I have followed everything I need to do in regards to filing a complaint. And then when I do that, they say, oh, we forgot to mention this, but it's a key. I'm having an issue with the key information that's not being dictated back to me. As a parent that is having continuing issues, what is the school district going to do in order to support these kids? People are filing these complaints, but what is coming out of it? What is the change that is going to happen for our kids? When is enough enough? Our children are being bullied, they're being harassed. All these issues, these are adult issues that are creating traumatic events for our children. These are memories that they're going to remember, and it's going to last them a lifetime. And what are we doing to be there? What are the teachers doing? What is the staff doing? What other policies are really being taken advantage of and really setting an example for our kids that, hey, we're doing something? Because we could fill out a piece of paper, we could say, oh, everything's okay, and we have it under control. But in reality, nothing is being done. Nothing is being changed. In the process, I feel like it is too slow. There has to be something that has to, I understand there is due process, but at the same time, when will we see change? And we're barely, my daughter, she's been going through this since school started, and she's a 6th grader, and she's going to be graduating, and she still has to have these problems, and this is going to be her memories of 6th grade, and I don't think that's fair to her. And I think that we need, as parents, as school faculty, and everyone else in the district, we need to step our game up and be there for our children. We need to advocate for our children that they can't speak on these things. They can't make the change themselves. We as adults, we are the ones that need to help them. We are the ones to protect them. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next virtual public commenter is Audrey Gamble, followed by Connie Alexander.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Good evening, board, school officials, and community members. In my job, I interact with students from Santa Barbara Unified every day. It's something that I really enjoy doing, but it's hard sometimes. And I'm speaking this evening to acknowledge the lived experiences of our Black and African American students and their families. My favorite time of the year is in the summer because we provide fun and engaging camps, academic camps, and the students are happy and excited to go on field trips and make new friends and discover new things about themselves and how they interact with one another. Well, they look forward to going to school to apply what they've learned over the summer. But unfortunately, at the return of going to school, 3 weeks into the year, these students' demeanor has completely changed in a negative way. Every day when these kids come through the door, I ask them, how was school? What'd you learn? What did you do today? And from elementary school kids, I get answers like, I was called a bad name. I got bullied again today. The same kid keeps pulling my hair and calling me names, but I can't tell the teacher because I'll be the one to get in trouble. Or I'm so glad school is over today. It was a rough day. And even from junior high school students, I saw 2 kids fighting today. I don't know what they were fighting about, but it seemed silly to me. Or I got called the N-word 4 times. I got pushed. Or we had to use a different gate to get into school today for fear of being bullied. So we all text each other different codes so we know where it is to enter safely to school. From high school students, we get parents that are complaining about hearing racial slurs thrown at other kids every day just while waiting in the parking lot to pick up their kids. So why are students of hate speech and bullying being victimized? Why don't they feel safe? Because our students are going to school not to learn and thrive. They're going there to survive. What are you as the district going to do about that? Because what you're doing right now, frankly, isn't working. So I'm asking you to protect our kids, protect our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last virtual public commenter is Connie Alexander, followed by Lorena Ortiz for in-person public comment.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Connie Alexander. I am president of the Santa Barbara NAACP, and I am speaking as president of the NAACP tonight. My concern over the racial incidents and reporting, and our concern as the NAACP, we're always going to ask three things. What are the procedures? What are the processes? And what are the practices? There is a breakdown when it comes to parents on site filling out the form. So they're following your procedures, but we are having different experiences at different campuses. On some sites, parents are attended to. Other sites, hey, oh yeah, I forgot about it. What happened? Oh, I sent this in November. It's now February, and now I'm finally hearing back from you because I had to call you. So, hearing things like that, or hearing, oh yeah, we closed that investigation. This is unacceptable to have this be so different, and that response. The process should be clear. The uniformity should be clear from campus to campus so that this does not waver. Every principal, assistant principal, dean of students should be doing the exact same thing on the exact same campus. I don't know what happens to the forms. I don't know why we can't have something that immediately goes to the district office as well as stays on the campus, but I don't get that. But it's not rocket science to get to it. I also want to say that in terms of practices, this has to be swift. Having a child and having a family constantly engaged in this without closure is trauma and is creating more trauma for these children. And I also want to say that we want to hear from the whole board on this. These issues come up, we talk about racial incidents, we talk about it, but we only hear from the same people or the same one person. I really want to hear from the entire board of where you stand with this and what you're going to do to make sure that we start to come to some other place here. Also, back in November, we had a conversation about curriculum around the N-word, that they were going to be working on curriculum for the N-word. I really haven't heard anything since. So we're just wondering what's happening with that. We appreciate the fact that the reports are still happening and we want to keep those doors open. And so we thank you for that, but we want to get to a better place about the procedure, the process, and the practice. This is traumatizing for these children, and we want you to hear that loud and clear. This is traumatizing. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last public commenter on this item, Lorena Ortiz. Welcome.
I'm a short one. Okay, hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Lorena Ortiz, and I am a fourth generation here in Santa Barbara. My kids are fifth. I've had 7 kids who've gone through, right now 4 in the Santa Barbara Unified Schools District, and 3 already have gone through it. I'm a parent who's very involved in school. I actually, every semester, I go one day throughout the whole day and spend it with my kids, right? There's been incidents with my kids that have not been reported. There's been an incident today that I got to see a Caucasian kid wearing an afro and mocking it as he saw my sweatshirt and then laughing with his friends. So it spoke truth to what my daughter said about how the Caucasian students could wear do-rags and mock their with the stuff that they wear for their culture, but yet they can't wear it at school. There was an incident today at San Marcos High School as well of a student who was taken from San Marcos High School with the dean and a police officer to the police station because of an incident, and the parent was never notified at all until they called her to let her know, can we give him a ride home? So these are things that you guys need to be very aware of. I've been a parent who's gone over there to school as well with girls who are having issues, that they're scared, and I just walk with them. So as a parent, being involved as well, and also being available to help you guys to have the kids more safe. We were involved with this survey, right? My question was, any parent of any kid who has been involved with racial issues, were they involved in making the survey? Because some of those questions were not, it just didn't make sense. It was almost like a joke, right? It didn't pertain to us. Another, the N-word, and then the M-word, because Latinos also insult African Americans, right? Those can't be used. I hear it when I'm at the school. I don't have a problem telling them, hey, you can't be doing that. Why can't our teachers do that? Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Board members, do you have any comments or questions? Ms. Suresh?
I just wanted to say this before it slipped my mind. I did have the opportunity to talk to students from all the 3 high schools, Santa Barbara, DP, and SM, to talk about their opinions on what they want as students to see an improved racial climate, and some demands or asks that they made were improved transparency on school campuses. So when there are specific incidents that occur at a school campus, that there is a standardized protocol for how to report those incidents to the entire school community while maintaining confidentiality, and then in those reports including protocol for reporting racial incidents. So like, this is what happened. If you notice something, please refer to this. That would go out when there is an incident that occurs that is reported. And then they also requested that there be some sort of like improved exposure to resources that are available specifically for students that experience racial trauma. So whether that be FSA therapists, social workers, improving access to those resources for students who need to talk to people about the experiences they've had if they've experienced racism or any kind of racial incident, as well as they requested, if possible, introducing some form of ethnic studies or bringing like a small introduction to ethnic studies in the junior high schools, and then introducing the idea in 5th, 6th grade, upper grades in the elementary schools, to also bring awareness to the class that they'll get to take in high school, but to introduce that concept at a younger age, familiarize students with it. So just before I let that slip my mind, those are some of the things that students said on their end that they would like to see to have an improved racial climate on their end.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any comments or questions?
I have a
Mr.
question.
Escobedo?
Ms. Edison, when there is a complaint on a campus, is your office or the district office notified about it? And I imagine that they monitor the or are involved in the investigation from the very beginning.
Yes, so if you're talking about racial incidents, and it depends. So in the district, every family, every staff member has an opportunity to file what is called a UCP complaint, a Uniform Complaint Procedures, if they believe that discrimination, harassment, intimidation, or bullying based on a protected class has occurred. Every family, when they report to a school site of bullying, admin should let families know. Let me say that just to make sure that it's happening. Should let families know that they have the right to file a UCP. Families don't have to file a UCP. They can leave it up to the school to respond. The principals are very good, and assistant principals and deans are very good about calling up for consults. This is the fact pattern. I don't know which way to go. And we're really calibrating in our meetings around when this happens, what we should do. So we bring in scenarios so everybody's familiarizing themselves so that we can, as NAACP mentioned, make sure that we have a shared and fair process across all of our school sites and a shared understanding of what the process should look like. And so I could get a formal complaint, or it could be resolved at the site informally.
Thank you. And to answer that question that was posed by the NAACP, are our practices, it was procedures, processes, and practices uniform throughout each of our school sites, or do principals and their administrative staff have agency in designing the process?
We are in a teachable moment space. Our processes are actually approved by you as a board. It's in our board policy and it's in our ARs. And we're now working on making sure we have shared understanding on how we put them in practice. For the most part, there is uniformity, but that doesn't mean that with new hires and new staff that things could be missed, which is why we're working so hard on calibration so that everyone understands this fact pattern, this is the result. This is how we move. This is what we should do. And we're doing that in our Thursday admin professional learning days.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There's always room for progress.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Edison, for your report, and thank you for the video. Looking forward to as we continue to expand that. I would add again I hear about our 3 high schools, but I want to advocate that we have Alta Vista and La Cuesta too. It really needs to be a part of that from the very beginning, as we look at that across, again, to have consistency across our high schools, across the district, period, but make sure we want to include those. And let me secondly say, I'm really sad to continue to hear that parents are not feeling like they're being heard. Students are not feeling safe. And I know that we've started to address some of that. But what does it look like? A parent must be asking, a student must be asking, what does it look like to just go to school, not have to have a code to get into a gate? What does that look like when I put in a complaint and it's answered in a timely manner? Whatever that means, timely manner. What is the follow-up to a complaint in our processes? I'm filing the complaint today. I should know reasonably when I can expect an answer on progress of where we are with that report and doing that. So I think that's an important part of in the procedures, practices, and process as we're starting to look at that. But I continue to be so sad that these children are still feeling not safe, not heard. And it is in the system. And it's not enough to keep saying that we're working toward it. Because daily these kids are not feeling safe at all, and we've got to do something about it. I literally am at a loss of words to say, what does that look like? I want to ask them, what does it look like to feel safe to come here? This is a place they have to come, but we should make it a place where they want to come as well. Because these are their foundational years that we cannot get back. We have to do everything that we possibly can to move forward. There can be no doubt that their safety, their educational potential is in the forefront of our mind, of our practices. And everybody has to be accountable for that. So when we talk about scenarios, I think we've heard some scenarios here today that maybe perhaps you can take back into meeting to talk about. Yeah. And are we being real in those comments? Sometimes we have to call each other on the carpet. You're not doing what you said you're going to do. Just call it out. Because that is saying that we're holding ourselves accountable. We're holding each other accountable, not necessarily putting you or shaming and blaming you, but just calling out. We are, the district has said, we have policies. You just said that. We have policies that said we're going to do it when we have to hold each other accountable. So I'm just as frustrated with us as a board as I am as a district. Because I'm part of that. It doesn't separate me from any of it. But I'm very much a part of it. And so I'm frustrated as to why we're not moving forward on that. I don't think it's a lack of people not trying, but it's just not visible what things are happening. Because I do hear you saying about, some of the recommendations that came out of our anti-blackness. Maybe we need to kind of maybe report that a little bit more, and I may be missing it, but just as a suggestion so that people know that there are things happening. And so we don't feel like you're not doing anything. And I think that comes as a part of just communicating, yes, that's in progress, or yes, we've done that, or, taking in consideration. And do we need to adapt when we hear public comment, when we hear parents having to call us back? Mm-hmm. What's that about? Is that a system area? I forgot. What is it? Yeah. But it should be a system and I forgot. Mm-hmm. Then that means that we need to improve our system. And I don't want us to be satisfied. I'm looking forward to certainly the survey results that are coming out, really looking forward to what that's going to look like, and hopefully As a comment came that felt that it didn't really address some of the issues, maybe the question didn't address their experience. And so I'm hoping that that's coming, a part of that is not where we stop, but it's an ongoing, how do we improve our processes in that way. But I got to tell you, I'm beyond frustrated with this. I feel very, very upset that our kids don't feel safe, and that this is not a place that they want to come. And even if it's like I got to get up and go to school, but yeah, something's gonna be there for me when I get there.
Yeah.
Because as we know, this is sometimes a safe place for kids, but it's no longer a safe place when it typically has been there. We've talked about that. In the summer, we talk about we need to make sure there's food because they don't have food sometimes. So this has become that safe place. And if this safe place is no longer safe, what are we doing? So you're the messenger.
If
But
I could, President, I do want to address 4 things, actually. One, I do want to say that in our IUE campaign video, all 4 high schools are in Alta Vista. They're included in there. We have student representation. I do want to address the issue of safety. We have revamped our safety plans so that we are including in that not only physical safety, but how are we ensure that kids are physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially safe on campus, and having our sites really call out goals for those areas and highlight what their actions are and the steps that they're taking on every one of our school sites. So we will, in our community, would be able to see that it's a targeted effort for that social safety. That's that piece that we're talking about tonight. And I also want to talk about when parents reporting. Again, we always want to build relationships with families and schools, but if that relationship is broken or if there's something that needs to be mediated, they can always report at the district office. They can also report online. We have an email account that's title9ucp@santabarbaraunified.org. There's multiple ways to convey the information up. Does not mean that there may not be human error. I do want to acknowledge that, but we really strive ourselves on prioritizing any experiences with students. Under UCP, it allows for a 60-day turnaround. We kind of pride ourselves, if it has to do with kids, to get that investigation started sooner rather than later. You have adopted board policy that says that an investigation is initiated within 10 days. That's an expectation that our community should have, that we will meet that expectation, that if something is reported, that it will be initiated within 10 days. And that is, for us with young people, a sense of urgency because we are focused on the experience of our students. That's not to say that we have it right and that we're perfect, but we appreciate partnering with community for them sharing their experiences so that we can respond appropriately. So this is still a conversation we need to have, and it is unfortunate, but it's a conversation we need to continue to have as we shift this system.
Right. I appreciate that. I know we've got a big ship that we've got to turn. But I think it's also important to share our frustration
Absolutely.
where we're not moving forward with regards to not shaming or blaming,
Yeah,
but just
absolutely.
acknowledging that. And so I appreciate those updates, and hopefully those that are hearing and listening, that they know that they can actually come, what steps are, what the timeline is, and that, in terms of the investigation is 10 days, what's the turnaround, at least making sure that it is communicated what progress is going on with that. So I just appreciate the conversation, appreciate the work that's being done, but we know we got a lot of work, and you've said that many times. And so I'm going to ask for a little grace with that, but I'm frustrated with the grace, But I just want to, I think it's important for we to continue to talk about what it is that we're doing it, because sometimes we're waiting for it to happen. But hopefully, as part of the video and what we're going, can it be a campaign about it? As we talk about this, can it be a campaign? Because that's out there. Have the community, hear this campaign. It's constantly in there, and that we're aware of it, So can it become an awareness campaign about this coming out of the district? So something that's tangible, because sometimes you need tangibility to be able to move forward and to start to believe that it is going to continue to move forward. So thank you for just again presenting this and the work that you're doing there, and thank you all for the comments, and that this is something that we can accomplish. We just have to keep in facing it head on. So, yes, Superintendent.
First of all, I appreciate that we share our feelings about that and recognize the feelings of frustration, so I don't want to overlook that. I also am going to ask us to look at our ARs, and if we have community partners that are working with our children that hear about something, I'm going to encourage them and ask them to please come forward, because it doesn't have to be the student or the parent. If there is a community partner that is working with our students that has knowledge of anything that is happening in our schools, I'm going to ask that we're going to write and ask that they also come forward and report it. So I appreciate hearing about it in our comments today, but I'm also going to ask, please come forward and tell us what school, what student name. If you hear about something, we want to hear about it. So I just wanted to add that to some of our processes. Thank you.
Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you. And I thank you for all of that. That is, I could not put thoughts that eloquent and hit it just on the head. So thank you. For me, I'm listening to comments, I'm listening to the public comment and kind of this conversation, and it's one thing that in reflecting on Kavia's kind of relaying the request from the students and then hearing some of the dialogue, I think it would be helpful at some time in the future to talk about what our process is. And I think our board meetings, yes, to report information, but it could also be an educational opportunity for us to really talk about what is going on. I love President Sims-Moton's idea of talking about what comes out of the anti-Black task force, and talking about maybe some of the, I know, because in my brief time here, you all are doing fantastic work, and I think sometimes in too humble of a manner, I think we need to talk about some of the work that we're doing and show people some of these processes, and also be honest about where we have to do more work, and you did much of that tonight, and I appreciate that. And so I think what the students brought forward, I think is pretty reasonable. Is just that transparency of what is our current process, what are our current practices, or even where are we trying to get to, I think would be really helpful. And resources for students, parents, community partners on how, where, what it looks like to report, what should they be reporting, I think would be really, really helpful. I think we heard some of that tonight. And then I can only speak for myself, but I do like the idea of in the future exploring, expanding ethnic studies into the junior highs. It's something that I would be very supportive of us talking about in the future. But with all of the room that we still have to grow, I want to say that in my brief time here, you and your team have demonstrated to me that this is an urgent issue, and it is being dealt with seriously and urgently, and I'm hoping that we get an opportunity in the future to demonstrate what that looks like to the extent that we can. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was at a meeting and they talked about some of the issues, and we certainly know that these issues that we're talking about here are societal as well. And one of the things he said that, education cannot do this alone. And so I appreciate your, welcoming and inviting the community in. And so if we want our community to change, then we need to work together because we cannot solve this by ourselves. So again, I echo the comments of Mr. Escobedo with regards to that, and all the comments that have, that were said here tonight. So I really appreciate this. And these are the conversations that we need to have.
Yes, yes.
All right.
And I would just say that in our leadership we're doing, and Dr. Sheffield's leading conversations around radical candor, and it fits directly into how do we address these issues directly so that people are better off because of it, and that our student experience is better off. So we are literally taking it from every angle. We do have a plan for our Combating Anti-Blackness work group to come in and present their information themselves to you, because this is the work they're lifting, and they're doing great work. And I just don't have, I believe it's the March date, but I don't have it off the top of my head. I got limited space with the work that's happening,
Yeah.
but I can follow back up with you all with that. But you're saying all the right things, our families are saying the right things, and it's right for them to hold us accountable to the work. So I'm excited to do the work.
Is Radical Candor a book?
It is. It's a whole framework.
So can we get a copy of that, or can we, for the board? Okay, great.
Dr. Sheffield would make sure of it.
Okay, great. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you all so much.
Okay. Okay, board members, we're looking at our last report and discussion item, G3, with regard to our committees and board representation. You've had the opportunity to look at those, and they're here in front of you. Some of the filled seats that we're looking to either shuffle around or fill by, that were previously by Ms. Capps and Ms. Ford. So we'll start from the very top and see if others want to be a part of it, or if you want it to remain the same. So I'll start with the audit committee. Is anyone wanting to be on the audit committee? I think Virginia are good at it, but okay, we're fine to keep that. I'm sure I can speak on her behalf to do that. So, we got you, right? Okay, so, all right. And then our next one is the graduation requires committee, which we had a representative from Ms. Capps, and then the alternate was Ms. Alvarez. So any interest in, we need to fill that representative from Ms. Capps. Any interest in that? Okay, I can come back to you, but don't be thinking you can get out of it, but I'm gonna work on it. We want to make sure you're getting what you want to do. So the subcommittee of the ethnic studies, I'm certainly the rep on that, and Ms. Munoz is the alternate of that, but I'm happy to share that if someone else wants to be a part of that.
I would be interested, but only if one of you would want to step down. And
I'm fine with stepping away from it.
Okay.
Is it in the evening or?
They usually 3:30 to 5. Right now is what they're meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can step down from that if you'd like to
Well,
join Miss Wendy.
yeah, Mr. Escobedo, you want to be the rep and I'll be the alternate? Is that, so that works for your schedule, Ms. Munoz? Okay. Okay, and our next is Staff Special Education Parent Advisory Committee. Ms. Munoz, you're the rep on that. Do you want to continue?
I would like to continue,
Okay,
but I could use an alternate just in case if you.
I'll take the alternate role.
okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Banning,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is our Sustainability and Wellness. That was filled by Ms. Capps. Anyone?
That
Mr.
would be
Escobedo?
interesting.
Okay. And as we go through, there may be others who want to do the alternate, but thank you for stepping up for that. And we don't, seeing that we don't have a dual language immersion master plan task force, that we have a rep on that at all. So are there any interest on that committee, or?
I would wonder when it meets,
Yeah, you
but I
can't
wasn't
really
sure.
see it.
It's at the next page. It says,
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I just,
on the second page, it says 5 to 7, and it's got some dates listed there.
Okay, I'd be interested
okay.
in.
Okay, and the South Coast Task Force on Youth Safety, I'm the rep on that, and Ms. Ford was the alternate on that. Any interest on either flipping that around or adding to that committee?
What's the normal number of committees?
However much time you have.
I'd be interested in that one.
Okay. Do you want to be the rep or you want to be the alternate?
Up to you, because I know.
I can flip
Interested
either
in
way.
the rep.
You want to do the rep? Sure. Okay, and then I'll just flip down to the alternate. In the Santa Barbara County School Board Association, we've already filled that. We had to fill that by a timeline, so Ms. Alvarez is the representative on that. There could be an alternate.
I'll serve as the alternate,
Okay,
yeah.
right, thank you. Okay, and then the Adelante Charter School, Ms. Capps was the rep, and Ms. Munoz, you were the alternate on that? Are you, I don't know when they meet.
What are the meeting times or frequency on that?
Yeah, that one, I think is once a month at
Yeah.
6, I believe.
I don't know how often they meet.
Right.
I'm aware I haven't volunteered as a rep for anything. I'm certainly willing to be an alternate anywhere. I do have some ongoing commitments on other Tuesday nights besides the ones that are here, so that I can't do any Tuesday nights, but
Okay.
I'd be willing to serve either as the rep or the alternate on
Yeah,
that.
I believe it's on Monday night.
Can we get that? Can we
Yeah,
follow up
I
on
will
that?
find out. I noticed also that we have Adelante, Santa Barbara Charter, but we don't have Peabody. So this was prior to me, so I'm just,
Yeah, I don't think we've had one. It's
Yeah.
only been the Adelante, but if you're thinking we might need to add that, we can, because we have Santa Barbara Charter School, looks like.
yeah.
So, Mr. Banning, we'll follow up on terms of when it is, but if you're.
Yeah, let me know where the needs are. And
Okay.
I just want to say on any of these committees, I am willing, scheduling, permitting to serve as an alternate if there's any issues there.
Okay, awesome. And then the Santa Barbara Charter School, Ms. Ford was the rep and Ms. Alvarez was the alternate. Any interest on the Santa Barbara Charter School? I know Ms. Alvarez would probably be all right with still continue to be the alternate on that. I'm not sure about the rep, because it's 7 to 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the third Wednesday. So you can look at that and see if anyone wants to be the rep on that. Does anyone volunteer that? Yeah, that might be. So we want to hold off on that, or anybody?
I'll just say in general that my availability during the workday is actually much better than the evenings. But so just keep that in mind. And if there's a hole that you think I could fill, just let me know.
And we
can look at schedules more carefully.
Okay, and we could follow up with this to see if these have been in place in terms of the times, but things may have changed, so we can certainly follow up and see, is this for sure that it needs to be in the evening, or is there some, flexibility?
Yeah.
So, okay, we can maybe put you down as an alternate there, Bill, but we'll look at it in terms of that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Yes. No, yes, he was going to be the rep, but we just need to follow up what they meet. Yes. So, yeah. Okay, and there's one that's not listed here that we talked about, and I know Superintendent Maldonado is going to give us a little bit of background on the Literacy Task Force. If you could do that.
Thank you. So the Literacy Task Force is part of our plan that was put together by Dr. Monroe and Denise Alvarado, I believe. And we actually had 2 meetings, and we have one more coming up in March, and I've asked my team to please put up the slide from that first meeting on the purpose. So it's really more like a working group. It's not necessarily a committee.
Okay.
And this is what we shared at that first meeting with the group that joined us. It's a combination of community members, teachers. We had 2 board members that joined. Parents, Combating Anti-Blackness Work Group joined at one point. The DLAC parents joined. It was Ms. Ford and Ms. Sims Moulton. And TOSAS, Teachers on Special Assignment, literacy coaches. So it's a fairly large group. And the purpose and the goal is here on the screen for you. It was to obtain input from the task force regarding the next steps we needed to take in the area of elementary literacy curriculum, instruction, and professional learning to help inform our upcoming curriculum adoption. And so that is the express purpose of that group. And we have one more meeting in March, and then we intend to bring to the board in May the adoption. And so that will take care of that, that group. Did you want me to add anything else?
No, that just kind of gives us the quick background, and seeing that we only have one more meeting, as I was on that, I'm happy to attend that last meeting, and then we can look at how if we want this continue in this form, or if we want something more permanent as a committee. So maybe at that point, and then I can bring this back here to see if there's an interest of, either being alternate or, a rep to that, if that's what we decide at the end of that. We need to continue it, not as just a work group, but as a more permanent piece.
So just to clarify, sorry, just want to make sure I understand. So
Yes.
for the express purpose for this group, that will be completed. I think another conversation, I think this is what I'm hearing you say, is now that we do the adoption, and then what's next, right? So
Yes.
we are hearing different pieces of things that we're doing around this. And just note that we do have an upcoming future agenda item, which is our comprehensive literacy program, which was one of the asks of this board that's slated for a future item. So I think as we get closer to completing the first, one of several tasks,
Yes.
and have some time to put all of that together and bring you the comprehensive literacy report, I'd like to propose that at that point, we sort of think about,
Right.
so based on that comprehensive literacy report, what we want to do next. Is that?
Yes, that's
Work?
exactly it.
Okay.
And open that, just the folks that have been attended, they're still welcome to attend as we go through that. I'm assuming that, right? That language, okay. Don't want to put words in your mouth.
I'm just looking at my cabinet.
Yeah. Does that work? Okay. All right. So was that clear as mud there on you guys? So that we, no, we got it. Thank you. Okay, well, I think that concludes that piece. And also, we can talk for future in terms of the legislative committee. We can discuss that later.
Yes, I just wanted to express interest in
Okay.
the board having a legislative committee
Okay.
in the future. I don't know if that's something we could do tonight, or if Dr. Maldonado, I'll look.
If you want to go back and.
Well,
Right.
I'd be happy to hear sort of what you're thinking about in terms of what it could possibly look like. So then that'll give me an opportunity to sort of have an idea what you're thinking,
Right.
convene with my cabinet, and then take a look at like where we would either be able to meet that need or
Mhm.
create a committee. So can I just kind of
Yeah.
hear a little bit about that from all of you?
Yeah, I think one thing that kind of came out of the conversation regarding your letter, along with Hope School District and Goleta Union, is there's policy being created and crafted, whether it's state, federal, or even local policy that does have impacts on our students, our teachers, our staff. And I think it's really important that we are intentional about keeping up to date with those policies, and then when appropriate, also stating our preference on the outcome of some of those policies to make sure that it's in the best outcomes for our students and our teachers and staff. And I think there is definitely an opportunity for us to have a seat at the table when it comes to these conversations that are really important.
Yeah, I would just add to that, just being the delegate, there's lots of things that are coming out from CSBA, and sometimes it's just coming directly to me, and I'm thinking if it can come over, again, having the seat at the table with more informed information that's coming out, be it bills that CSBA is supporting or giving us a heads up at what's coming so that we can be prepared for that. And mostly this committee, I think, can just be support in terms of things that you're looking at, what we might look at, what we might need to advocate for. In terms of those pieces. That's what I'm looking at that to be, and it sounds like it's in line with what Mr. Escobedo is saying as well. So if we give you that, a little bit of that direction, are there any other input from other board members regarding the legislative committee?
Excellent. So I think I will take this under consideration and come back to you with that. And also, it reminds me of Patricia Madrigal's position. So yeah, I'll come back to the board on this recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, board members, for your flexibility and adaptability to this. I think we'll be well represented on that, and we'll adjust as necessary. And again, we can maybe just follow up with some of those to make sure those are set times or if anything has changed. Okay, so that moves us to coming events, which you can see there. We have quite a few coming events. They are listed there in your agenda to look at that. We have school this next weekend. We're out the 20th. Can you announce that?
We will be taking Lincoln's birthday Friday and President's Day on Monday.
Okay. Can you just elaborate on Take Your Family to School Week? What does that look like? It said 21st, 28th. Are we doing that? Take your family to...
Take Your Family to School Week. I'm going to ask if one of our cabinet members knows about that one.
Maybe it's just there as part of, those things that are on the calendar.
Some of them are on the calendar, so I'll ask Sandra
okay.
to help me with that one. But I will say, for example, Santa Barbara Junior High School, we learned that they do have on Fridays, parents come and have lunch with their kids.
Okay.
And they bring them lunch, and they sit in the lawn, and so we are trying to also create more family engagement in our schools.
Yes.
That looks different than our traditional, back to school or open house times, or, those are the only times typically we had parents, and so we'll continue to get back on increasing our family engagement in many ways.
Well, I appreciate that because, again, as part of Region 11, so we have a regional rep above us, and I just got a email to say, can you tell me kind of what's going on in your schools? I really want to come. So they want to highlight and elevate and put around the region what's going on at the schools. And I think, again, this is an opportunity for us to get out there, what we're doing around racism, the things we're not seeing, that the work that's being put in that, and they're willing to come out and be a part of what we're doing, and then spread that back out as a part to what other schools are doing in examples. So as we come up with those different things, I'd like to be able to know that, to be able to report that, yeah, you can come and see what we're doing. Because we are an awesome district and we're working toward being more awesome. Okay, it sounds like we have a board meeting, regular board on the 28th. Again, our regular session started at 6 p.m., just so that we know, and our closed session still remains at 4:30. Ms. Munoz?
Coming events, we also have, in March, we have the Youth Makers Market supporting our students on March 18th on 720 State Street, just to put that on your calendar.
And there, throughout the rest of this month, a lot of Black History Month events that are happening. It's on the website. I can just send that. I know that that's going on. Do you have? Okay.
We do have one tomorrow night at SBCC, a Black to School Youth event that we've also publicized to many of our families, that is directed at families that are biracial or Black, and that went out today as well. So we're hoping to see some of those families there.
Okay. Coming event as well, First Five is hosting a new board member breakfast on February 23rd. I think that has gone out, and hopefully you're able to attend some of that. That's going to be looking forward to that. I think that's it. Any other additional coming board members? Okay. And then also future agenda items that you can also note there on where we're looking at that, as you mentioned, Dr. Maldonado. And we have on there, I just want to highlight 2 joint meetings with Santa Barbara City Council. So just as we're talking about those different tables that we need to be at, and those are those opportunities for us to meet with other local government agencies. So that concludes our meeting tonight. Without further ado, let's roll out. It's been real. It is 8:21. Have a nice evening.